This video is brought to you by Recollection, an original animated series I'm producing with my friends. Stay tuned at the end of the video to learn more about it.
And for those reasons and many others, I think I would be the perfect candidate for your roster.
That's interesting and all, but I already added that purple pterodactyl pirate that people were demanding me to include for the last two games.
Oh, but you could possibly still have another representative, right?
Yeah, you're right, but best I can do is add a Goopy Samus instead.
You'll give her a unique moveset, right?
We're just recycling Samus's moveset.
Got a problem with that?
No.
That's what I thought.
Remakes and remasters can be wonderful things when developed properly. They can be a safer way to reinvigorate a long-dormant franchise, allowing players to enjoy classic titles they might have missed, or serve as a great way to get a new team comfortable with a series before they're given the chance to make the next installment. These types of games can serve many purposes, but for them to truly stand out, they must walk the fine line between enhancing the visuals or mechanics while respecting the original's gameplay and art direction to deliver the definitive experience. Fortunately enough for fans, Metroid has received its share of remakes over the years that truly set a standard of what these type of games should strive to be, with Zero Mission and Samus Returns. They found ways to modernize the formula of the original titles, added new content or abilities, and took the opportunity to expand the lore of the series. Ever since then, a topic has arisen in the community regarding what game should receive this treatment next, be it Super Metroid since it's the next game in terms of order of release, or Fusion since it was the game Mercury's team wanted to remake in the first place. While I can see how fans may want to see these classics receive the same remake treatment, a part of me feels it's a bit unnecessary, at least right now. When compared to the rest of the series, the first two Metroid games were arguably the most outdated ones, to use the term loosely. In comparison, Super and Fusion still hold up today, both visually and gameplay-wise, and continue to be prime examples of the standard these type of games should strive to achieve. If anything, there is one game in the series that often goes forgotten which could benefit from a remake treatment the most. An ambitious title that was somewhat limited by the system it was developed for, which brought so many interesting ideas to the table. Ideas I'm sure every Metroid fan would love to see expanded on. That being the somewhat obscure Metroid Prime Hunters. Back when the Nintendo DS was gearing for its release, Kensuke Tanabe, producer of the Prime games, had an idea for the franchise, and tasked Nintendo Software Technology with its development, since Retro Studios was occupied with creating the later installments of the Prime trilogy. The end product was Metroid Prime Hunters, a game that would showcase the hardware's ability to have a full-fledged 3D first-person game, with a multiplayer mode that can take advantage of the console's built-in Wi-Fi connectability. And wow, this game truly is a marvel on the technical level. Hunters ended up releasing in 2006, just 2 years after Echoes, and offered a similar type of experience to the one we came to love from the Prime series, but on a portable console. I just want to remind everyone that the last portable Metroid title we got before this was Zero Mission in 2004. So seeing handheld Metroid go from this to this was quite mind-blowing to say the least. Not to undersell the art style of the 2D games, but we now have a way to enjoy a Prime-style adventure while not being tied to a dedicated home console, which also features a robust multiplayer mode, so there was a lot to get excited about. Metroid Prime Hunters wasn't just some mission-based game or glorified tech demo. You had scan logs with lore of your surroundings, many planets to explore, items to collect, several self-destruct sequences, and even alternative endings. This was a full-fledged Metroid Prime game through and through, so the fact they made it work with the DS's limitations is no short of impressive. Hunters was a very refreshing and exciting title to see come out. The story takes Samus into the unknown Limbic Cluster in search of a mysterious ultimate power, while battling an assortment of new hunters who wish to claim it for themselves. This title wasn't focused on continuing the phase-on narrative from the console games, nor the Metroids like the classic titles. It set its goal to expand the series in a different direction by supplying us with new characters to face against and a new alien culture to discover. Even if it's just for the multiplayer mode, the prospect of controlling a different character in a Metroid game was quite exhilarating. Each hunter had its dedicated alt form that controlled differently, but also special properties when using their weapon of choice, and backstory that gave them a reason to hunt down the ultimate power. Be it to serve the greater good like Noxus, seeking revenge like Weevil, expand an empire with Trace, or spread chaos through Candon. The vast selection of hunter alignments and abilities made it easy for players to latch onto the roster, and they continue to be some of the most recognizable designs in the franchise. Hunters offered a fun, chaotic shooter game virtually anywhere, with a vast selection of modes to play in, characters to control with unique UIs and abilities, a variety of maps and weapons to choose from, and the ability to play this locally or online added so much replay value and can even put some modern titles to shame. The amount of content available with no future support right out of the box was outstanding, and it's something I could easily spend an entire video talking about. But okay, so from the way I'm explaining it, Hunter seems to be a complete package. And from a technical standpoint, it is. You get a full single-player experience with a rich multiplayer mode filled with all sorts of combat options and weapons that can rival games today. But that's not to say this game is perfect. This might in fact be the game I play the least in the series. Well, at least the campaign, because during its peak, I spent a lot of time engaging in firefights against my friends in high school. I always felt that these issues are owed to the hardware it was released on and the limitations it brought alongside it. Which may sound ironic since Hunters reportedly had a larger team behind it than most DS games had. But then again, we are talking about arguably one of the most ambitious games on the system. So let's start by addressing the elephant in the room, Hunter's control schemes. This game features two options to control your aim, by either using the face buttons or by using the touchscreen as a makeshift mouse setup, which surprisingly works great. But the problem is that neither of these control schemes is that comfortable with extended playtimes, and you don't always feel 100% in control of your actions. With the button scheme, you sacrifice the aiming precision of the touch controls in favor of holding the DS comfortably like a proper console. With the touch aim, you get an extreme level of accuracy, which takes a little bit getting used to, at the price of an awkward way to hold the system that can be tiring on the arms. Not to mention that all of your abilities are tied to the touchscreen, so swapping beams and visors or even using your missiles is never as smooth as other Prime games. Even after years of playing it, I can never find a proper, comfortable way to play this game, and I'd argue that Hunters is the one Metroid game where you need to feel in control and accurate at all times. This game plays like an arena shooter, and not just in the multiplayer. Enemies tend to be jittery, super aggressive, and constantly moving, so you need precise aim to land your shots while being able to move to avoid damage since most things hit like a truck, which sadly takes a lot of getting used to with either control scheme. It also doesn't help that the gameplay loop in this game is a bit shallow. To access the final boss, you need to collect all 8 octoliths, each guarded by a boss. To access each boss room, you must explore the planet for 3 artifacts that activate a portal to enter their domain. Each planet has 2 sets of artifacts that can activate a completely different portal. And if that wasn't enough, there are only 2 types of guardians, so you'll have to fight the same boss 4 times, and defeating any will engage an escape sequence back to your ship. So yeah, this is the Metroid game with the most escape sequences to date. I know this might sound similar to what you do in the endgame of other Prime titles, but this is the essence of the entire gameplay loop in Hunters. You won't get new items to interact with the world in the same way you would any other Metroid game. There aren't any upgrades to your suit or mobility. Here, you'll only collect the weapons used by the other hunters, which adds a nice variety to the combat for sure, but aren't used to solve environmental puzzles or be required for boss interactions, aside from a seemingly arbitrary weakness system. Adding to the monotony is the fact that this game can feel like an endurance gauntlet. Your ship is the only safe room available, and you will be put in plenty of situations where you have to fight a barrage of enemies to make progress, which makes this game feel more like a regular shooter than a Metroid-style experience. I don't mind a more action-oriented campaign, but it does sadden me that there aren't many ways to use your arsenal to interact with the environment or branching paths to explore the planets. Navigating the world can be confusing in Hunters, be it because some rooms share similar designs, are relatively large and filled with hallways, or have an awkward level design. However, the biggest drawback for me is that there's a general lack of environmental storytelling or puzzles. A hallmark of the Metroid series is how the worlds you explore feel alive, filled with history. Their details help paint a picture of the culture of the world you're discovering and allow your imagination to fill in the gaps. The areas you visit in Hunters do have an overall theme and story, yet they feel very surface level. Not much here properly tells you about the Olympic culture or whatever might have inhabited these locations. I know that part of the story is that there were an unknown race that disappeared eons ago, but you don't get a sense of their civilization much as you see with the Luminov or even the Chozo, and the shortage of scan logs don't help at filling in the gaps. That's not to say that there aren't some cool details like the Guardians attacking you to prevent Goria's awakening, but I wish we got more story beats like this through the level design. Overall, the campaign feels a bit lacking in focus or variety when compared to its predecessors, which gives off the impression that perhaps the multiplayer was always the main focus, which was also the case with its marketing. And this is easy to notice when you consider that the otherwise barren or awkward rooms make for fun places to have firefights in. This is something I have to commend the development team. Designing multiplayer arenas is hard as is, but having to find ways to connect them into a cohesive map for a single-player campaign is extremely challenging. Doubly so when you take into account the memory space of a DS cartridge. I always felt that Hunters had some amazing ideas that could breathe new life into the Metroid series, but has been held back by the system it was developed on. A technological marvel to get a complete Prime-style experience on primitive hardware, yet this is what kept it from reaching its full potential. All of these shortcomings and vast potential are the reasons I have dreamed of Hunters getting the remake treatment. A way to experience the full potential of its story and moments to interact with other characters, ironing out the environments to add more storytelling, updating the scan log to share more about the Olympics past, while being able to use a more conventional controller setup for a smoother experience. It would give Hunters the proper chance in the spotlight it deserves, while offering a robust multiplayer experience to Nintendo's lineup. Doubly so if they allow more players to fight per match and they keep the arena shooter nature of the original. Hunters' formula has so much to offer, a chance for the Metroid series to expand in new directions, even if it's just a simple side series. The obvious main challenge for this is mostly the huge undertaking to remake this game. It could easily be something that dwarfs the development cycle or cost of other remakes and remasters, especially given how probably little can be salvaged from the original game and the much larger scope of the project as a whole. It definitely seems like a case where for the type of work needed to be done to remake it, you might as well make a new installment to progress the franchise. However, there are just a lot of cool and creative ideas inside of Metroid Prime Hunters to just leave in the dust. And despite all of its shortcomings, you can feel the passion from the developers when you play it. There was indeed a time I couldn't put Hunters down. It allowed me to bond with my friends who otherwise didn't play Metroid. It gave me a glimpse at the possibilities of having more characters take center stage and rival Samus, and it proved that there's so much room for the series to grow. It truly is a marvel of its time and a game that often doesn't get the recognition it deserves, especially given how several of its ideas have more or less re-emerged in later titles. I hope that if Kensuke Tanabe is still interested in using some of Hunter's elements for future games, there will be a chance to see some aspects of his formula reach its full potential. And perhaps then we will see the true scope of the vision the original developers always had in mind. Now, before ending the video, I just wanted to quickly mention that I have launched a Kickstarter campaign to hopefully produce a pilot episode for an original animated series I've been developing for a while now, titled Recollection. A sci-fi action-adventure series set in a world plunged into war, after an unknown event known only as the Calamity placed it in a state of accelerated decay, and where a reserved traveler is trying to unravel the mystery behind her ominous dreams and rediscover her past. This is one of many passion projects I've been developing over the past years, taking extra care in creating a world and journey that can be intriguing for our audience to follow and satisfying to see all the way through. You all know my love for immersive worlds and finer details that aid to storytelling, so it's an element I have carefully implemented into the narrative. As you might expect, this is the reason behind my irregular upload schedule. I've been focusing most of my free time and resources on producing original projects that fill my creative drive and can deliver a world and story worthy of your investment. If we received but a small contribution from everyone subscribed, we would have enough to get our project off the ground and start working. You can find more detailed information about our campaign through the links in the description, and we would really appreciate any help with spreading the word through social media. Simply leaving a like on this video also does wonders, since it's the only way to convince the algorithm to promote our content. Our goal has always been to bring joy to people around the world through the stories we want to tell, and with your help, we hope we can make this dream of ours a reality. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video or stream.